in business and politics from the beginning, right?
From the beginning. Started my first business at 14.
Sealing driveways.
Call of driveway maintenance.
Diverse business interests. You did housing, finance.
Hotels, apartment buildings, shopping mall.
Electric cars.
For
a while. A little less diverse on the political front. You seem to have an affinity for
one political party.
For one family.
One family.
For people named Clinton.
Yeah, but I actually started. I was Jimmy Carter's finance director in 1979, 1980. I was 23 years old. So that's how I started. Helped Gephardt, finance chairman for Gephardt, and then been involved with the Clintons for 30 years. Most expensive friends I've ever had.
How much have you raised for them?
They say $1 billion or something. I don't know. You know, I do it all for free. You know, so I don't really keep track of it. It's all volunteer.
$1 billion.
I've raised a lot. You know, his library and a lot of things. But I enjoyed it.
So wait, I want to talk about Virginia, but you mentioned Jimmy Carter. You wrestled an alligator for Jimmy Carter?
I once challenged for $15,000 contribution to the Carter campaign if I would spend 3 minutes in a pit with a live alligator. I did it.
You did that. And what did the two of you do for that 3 minutes?
Well, I was on his back, and he was trying to bite me and get me off and hit me. The tail is as dangerous as the mouth of an alligator. It can snap your vertebrae in half. So you're sort of riding its back, hanging on for dear life for 3 minutes. I'll do anything once, and I got all my fingers.
All right.
It got me in Life magazine and Time and Newsweek. I was 22 years old. It was the greatest thing ever happened.
So it's pretty cool, and you raised some money.
And I got the 15 grand.
Fundraising got easier after that.
Much easier, yeah. And I remember when Chief Billy was actually giving me instructions to the Seminole Indian tribe in Broward County, Florida, and they'd been drinking all day, saying, if he gets loose, we'll shoot it. I said, the heck you will. You guys are all half in the bag. You'll end up shooting me.
We could do your life. You've had a great life. We could do. Yeah. You're the only person I know who's ridden a bicycle in the old executive office building.
Yeah, that was great for Clinton's going away video. The best part of that story, Alan, was so President Clinton and I were riding the bike. We were filming for this Washington, the big dinner for all the press on his way out the door. And nobody was there. We were one end of the EOB, and we started. And Clinton said, "Well, let's, after the cameras," he said, "Let's take a rip around the whole building. It's a gigantic building." So we go around, and Vice President Gore's staff were writing a national security speech, way on the other side. So Clinton and I go by. We're ringing the bells. They come out. They don't see any cameras, no Secret Service, just the two of us. And they said, "I knew those two had lost their minds. What's this all about?" You know. I've had an interesting life.
Probably the only time in the, 130-year history of that building that has happened.
But I've actually written a New York Times bestseller on my life called What a Party. So if you're ever bored some night.
Okay, but let's talk about, because as Brian said, we started this conversation yesterday by talking about what a mess Washington is in, not just with regard to any energy policy, but any policy.
Correct.
And so the question we end up with is, can states really pick up the baton? I mean, how much can you really do at the state level?
Well, I think that's where most people now are focusing on the governors, because at the end of the day, we have to make decisions every day. I got a state of about 8.4 million, huge economy. I just announced the lowest unemployment, 4.5%. We're the lowest in the Southeast United States. I have to create jobs every single day. So I have the ability, like in energy, renewable energy. I just announced yesterday 80 megawatts for Amazon. This is the second largest solar field in the entire East Coast. Largest.
They're building a solar field to power an Amazon.
Just gave the permit yesterday. I'm doing offshore wind. We have the first federal lease to do that. We'll be the first in the Atlantic Ocean to do that. So as governor, I can drive these things, and I drive them. I can't wait for Washington. They can't get a budget done. They can't get a debt ceiling done. They can't get the Highway Trust Fund done.
No, it's not like you don't have polarized politics in Virginia. I mean, is it the power of the governorship? You don't need legislative approval to do these things?
Well, some things you do, some you don't. Some I do through executive order. Yeah. Some I do through executive directive. But when it comes to job creating and all that, I mean, the legislature, I mean, listen, we've done $7.8 billion since I've been governor, nearly double any governor in the history of Virginia. I think they're pretty happy to see that I'm out actually
$7.8
billion in new capital I've brought since I've been governor in 17 months.
Into the state?
Into the state. 471
all
projects.
Over. How much of that is from overseas?
Probably over half, probably overseas. Last year, the biggest deal ever done by a Chinese company into America. We won that in Virginia.
What was that deal?
2,000 jobs. Environmentally green paper manufacturing company. It's called Tranlin Paper. They don't use any pulp at all, which is most paper products. It's all agriculture waste. So those huskings that are left down on the fields that just rot worthless is now worth $50 to $100 million to our farmers. That is what goes in.
And why Virginia?
We were very competitive. I went to China twice to court the company. I mean, we're a very low-tax state. We're one of the lowest tax states in the country, very business-friendly. We've got the deepest port on the East Coast. We have a lot of advantages. We have more military assets than anyone else, largest naval base in the world, Pentagon, CIA. And all of that together, I think, is in great educational institutions.
The other interesting thing about your approach to energy is, yes, you're promoting renewables, you're funding renewables, but you'll do offshore drilling if the opportunity looks
I'm doing offshore drilling. I'm just a big supporter of 2 gigantic new pipelines. Very controversial in Virginia. I'm a huge supporter.
You supporter the Keystone Pipeline?
Well, it doesn't affect Virginia, so I don't even need to get in it. But I am the 2 that I have, Atlantic Coast Pipeline.
You're for it.
I'm for it. And because, Alan, we can bring this natural gas. We're not doing the fracking, but we are bringing the gas in for the Marcellus Shale into Virginia. This is like a super highway. I can take an exit entrance ramp anywhere I want to build manufacturing. I got parts of Virginia and South Side, Southwest. They've lost coal, textile, furniture, tobacco. The only way I can bring jobs back is manufacturing, cheap energy. That's why I can compete with China. The delta has gotten smaller. I can beat China and bring manufacturing.
But the coal guys can't. I mean, Virginia, at least once upon a time, was a pretty big coal state.
We were, in fact, in Alpha, you just saw the other day, went bankrupt. This is the argument I've tried to make. In Virginia, which is traditionally a coal state, we have about 8.4 million folks. We have about 4.1 million workers in Virginia. How many do you think, Alan, actually work in the coal business? And we're viewed as a coal state.
You told me the answer to this question.
It's about 3,100. I'm going to try over the next 3 years to create 300,000 jobs in the renewable energy space. So I've gone into the coal mines, and I've sat with these folks in the coal mines. First of all, there's only 2 or 3. It's all automated. And I've said, you most likely your child, and clearly your grandchild, is not going to be working in a mine. We've got to get new jobs for them, 21st century diverse jobs. We can do this with renewable. I've created more we ought to be manufacturing the turbines, the blades, the panels I announced yesterday. Those panels should be manufactured in Virginia.
Do they buy that argument?
They do, but it's culture, and you got to respect their culture. This has gone on for many, many years. But reality has set in. There's no jobs in the coal business. Our largest one just went bankrupt. Alpha, who bought Massey. So I have really focused on bringing jobs to those areas.
Now, you don't have renewable portfolio standards in Virginia the way they do in
It'd be hard to get it through that legislature.
They wouldn't pass it.
But what I do is we can work on the tax code. You get a $500 per green job credit for every green job that you have in Virginia. I just set up the Solar Development Authority. I just got it.
You can do that tax credit without legislation?
We did that with the legislature. I'm working with them some things. And but if I show it creates jobs, you have a hard time arguing against these types of things. Yeah. But Dominion now, our big utility company, is doing 400 megawatts of solar. I just got that 500 megawatts is in the public interest of the Commonwealth. So Virginia, which was a state that was not in the game, today, in fact, first quarter 2015, we broke the top 10. We were in the back of the pack for green job creation. This quarter, I just went to 8. And by the time I'm done, I'm going to be 1.
Does nuclear count in that?
Well, it's not on that equation, but I'm very proud of our nuclear. We're 42% nuclear. I am a huge nuclear advocate. There is no carbon emission from it.
If it'll create jobs in Virginia, you're for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, they're have an application in for a new nuclear facility. I 100% support. Yeah. Absolutely. I need cheap energy.
Yeah.
In order to build what I call the new Virginia economy. I need to build manufacturing. Without cheap energy, I can't compete.
Now, you had to wrestle a little bit with the EPA over these standards. So what happened there?
Well, the initial proposed rules that came out, I'll be honest with you, Alan. Listen, and I support the reduction of carbon emission. I'm a huge advocate for that, always have been. But I can't do something that's not in the best interest of the state that I'm governor of. And the initial rules that came out were very bad for Virginia. They didn't give us credit for any nuclear. Now, we're 42%. There is no carbon emission. So how can you not give us credit for nuclear when our neighboring state of Kentucky and West Virginia, great states, but they haven't done any of this, and you are making us as the same standard as they are? Doesn't make sense. So we got no credit for past activity. So now, long story short, I talked to the White House many times. I talked to Gina McCarthy, the EPA administrator, very professional relationship and discussion.
It helps to be Terry McAuliffe.
And it changed, so we got everything we needed. But it was the right thing, not only for Virginia, but it was the right thing for all of them. I shouldn't be held to a standard in a different state. I wanted a uniform national standard, and we clearly shouldn't have been penalized for our nuclear, because I'm a huge advocate.
Yeah, so where do you, and by the way, another interesting thing about Virginia is you can't run for re-election.
One term.
So that frees you up
yeah, but you've known me 25 years now, and I don't think my personality would be any different if I had one term or 30.
And it's...
Correct?
I think you don't change.
Yeah.
Very popular in the state right now.
Yeah, we had a nice poll. I mean, it is what it is. A nice poll. I had a plus 30 job approval rating, which, you know, has to be one of the highest in the country. Why? Jobs, economic development. Yeah. Listen, when I ran for governor, and I broke a 38-year trend. Whoever wins the White House, the other party wins the governor's mansion. Yep. I had to do something very hard, because after the presidential election is the governorship of Virginia and New Jersey. So your turnout drops to here. So you've got to get voters out. I ran a very unique campaign for Virginia governor. You know Virginia. I said I'd be a brick wall to protect women's rights. I was the first statewide candidate in the South to come out for marriage equality. Yep. I'm the first Southern governor to perform a gay marriage. Yep. I said I want Virginia to be open and welcoming to everyone. You want to come create a job? I want you. Yep. And, you know, I'm a gun owner. I hunt, but I told the NRA they can go jump off a cliff. I'm for background checks. Yep. No one had ever done this running for governor of Virginia. And guess what? We won.
Yeah, and you are an endangered species, Democrats in the South. I mean, will there be another Democratic governor of Virginia?
Or in the South, we have one in Kentucky. We have a great race, and I hope we win it. But you're right, if we don't win it, I'd be the only Southern Democrat left statewide. But I tried to make the argument, Alan, they need to lean in on the issues. I would rather lose fighting for the things I believe in than look at some poll and try and find out where voters are. Yeah. No one had done on the NRA. My opponent said, you're the first guy to get an F from the NRA. I said, you know what, I'm proud of that. I want background checks, because that's right for the communities of Virginia. I want to protect women's rights. We had some horrible legislation before I came in. And I want Virginia to be open to everyone. And you know what? It's working.
Yep. So I'm going to open it up to questions in just a minute, but before we do that, I know you don't really want to do this. We've got to talk a little bit about your friend Hillary Clinton.
Who?
Yeah. I mean, look, one of the things about you as a politician, and before you were a politician, you love what you do. Yeah. And it shows. Yep. You know, Donald Trump may be a lout, but he is having the time of his life.
And that's why he's not going anywhere. You're exactly right.
He is having a lot of fun. Right. Hillary Clinton just looks miserable every day. She looks so unhappy doing what she's doing.
You know, listen, I chaired her 2008 campaign. I've been very close to the family. We vacation together. We're very close. Hillary is a tremendous amount of fun. As I say, we're on vacation. It comes 5 o'clock. I'm ready for a beer or a cocktail. I go looking for her. I don't go looking for President Clinton, because she's a lot more fun to sit around. She actually have a good drink with you. But I do think it's actually important, Alan. People want to see people having fun in what they're doing. And listen, this is a tough business. She's very serious. She's on the issues. She's smarter than hell. She's tough. But, I wouldn't disagree. I've said this publicly. I'd like to see her. I thought one of her greatest moments in 2008 is when she went, I think it was in Philly, when she went in and had that shot at the bar with all those union workers. Yeah. I said, Hillary, I will do that with you every day if you need me to do that with you.
Yeah. So what,
I do that anyway.
Every hour.
What the heck?
Every hour. So what's holding her back?
I want you also to know I am the first governor in America that put a kegerator in the governor's mansion. Yeah, who else has done that? Nobody.
Well, they'll put a plaque on the mansion for you there. That'll be your...
Jefferson thought about it, but he didn't do it.
Questions or comments? Anyone?
Can I tell you one Trump thing before we go? You say Jefferson. It's funny we say this. Thomas Jefferson, Monticello, of course, in Charlottesville. He tried to obviously make wine, and he was a tremendous failure at that. It didn't work. It's one thing of all the great things that just didn't work. Donald Trump has now bought his vineyard where he was and has now turned it into the biggest winery on the East Coast.
Serious?
So when Donald and I were at an event last year in Virginia,
so he
even said, I did what Thomas Jefferson couldn't do. I mean, only Trump could get away with that.
That's pretty good. And he brought jobs to Virginia.
Yeah, he literally is the biggest on the East Coast, a gigantic Trump winery in Charlottesville, Virginia. Huge.
Big Trump signs all over it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He tries to get them on the grapes before they. It's too hard to do that, though. Yeah. Yeah.
Questions are right there in the back, and then Katie.
Hi, Governor. Peter Diamandis again. Love your spirit. My question is, nothing changes slower than government. And we're living during the most extraordinary, accelerating time ever, right? You're seeing governments protesting Uber, Airbnb, 23andMe. So the question is, how do you think about that? And how do you think about actually reinventing? Because our system of governance was invented 200 years ago. We don't have the luxury of restarting over again here.
It's a great question. Nobody knows government inside from more angles than you do.
First, I would say, you don't have enough. Listen, I am a fiscally conservative, pro-business Democrat. I'm all about jobs. I'm socially progressive as hell. At the end of the day, I didn't run to be your priest. I ran to be your job creator. What you do at home is your business, but this idea that we're trying to compartmentalize folks, and we got to stop all that. We are competing on a global basis every single day. What I think, Peter, to answer your question, has destroyed democracy in this country, and the biggest thing, and I talk about this all the time, is the gerrymandered districts that we have for these congressional races. And 90% of members of Congress and in my own General Assembly don't have competitive races. You are guaranteed of winning re-election. So what happens in the primaries is the only place you can lose, and you get pushed way out to the extremes. Just like in business, you got to operate in that middle lane. You got to compromise. Compromise is not a bad word. I've been in business my whole life. I have to compromise. But today in Washington, nobody compromises.
And that's really the Supreme Court's fault.
Part of it.
It's the Supreme Court's fault. I mean,
and we let these guys draw their own lines.
So could you change that in Virginia? Do an Iowa sort of nonpartisan redistricting commission?
Well, why don't you ask? We've just done this in Virginia.
If I could, the question was not about state, voting lines. It's about how do you, as a governor running a state, deal with the rate of change, and how do you actually onboard innovation, change the way you do things in terms of the tools you use, bringing in, and it's disruptive to the way it is, but the efficiencies are there, and you're either going to change it yourself or the world's going to change it for you. And I'm just wondering, how do you think about innovating government within Virginia?
Yeah, and let me just say, I disagree with you, and you are a lot smarter than I am. But if I can't have a body of a legislature, listen, we're in politics. I'm in a government. There's legislature, there's the executive. I need people working with me, just as you do in your business, who want to lead, who want to change, who want to innovate, who want to energize, who want to motivate. But my point is, people stay in politics way too long. They cannot be beaten. Young people don't come into the business because, first of all, they can't win because the lines are drawn against them. So the greatest innovators are not getting into politics. We need innovators in politics. And that's why I would say. Now, so as you can probably tell with my personality, I blow right through it. I travel constantly. As I say, I was probably the most traveled governor last year. China twice, Japan, Korea, all over Europe. Meeting with thinkers, bringing them in. They need to know from me, if I come to your state, are you going to let me do X, Y, and Z? And that's what I've tried to promote. We just have Wallops Island. We are launching into space, as you know, into the space station. Virginia's doing that. I'm one of 6 states now that has all of the UAV, the new drones. I have all that. I have more data centers than any state in America. I have more tech workers, second to California, of any state in America. I'm leading the nation on cybersecurity. These are the innovative 21st century technologies, and I'm working with the tax code and trying to bring people in. But as a governor, I can set the table. But my point, and you're right, we in America are now battling on a global stage, and we are not being innovative. They are stuck in Washington. They can't agree on the time of day looking at a digital clock. And we can't get a highway trust fund done. We can't get anything done. And meanwhile, Putin and the rest of these guys and President Xi in China are moving ahead. We need to innovate. We need to challenge. We need to motivate folks. And our government is ground to a halt. That's why governors are making the difference in America today.
Now, Governor, you mentioned gerrymandering. I think you're right on target on that. But some people think money is part of the reason why politics is broken. That these races have become so expensive, and you understand this. The races have become so expensive, so much money gets poured into it. Do you think that works against?
Oh, no question. In Citizens United case, where now people can give unlimited amounts of money, sure, Alan, absolutely. But put the money aside. If I have a district that I have no chance of winning, forget, I don't care how much money you have. We as a democracy have got to redraw every line in America. I like them so that they're geographically balanced, 50-50, as close as you can get to 50-50, Democrat, Republican, whatever, so that there's competition.
Really have to
competition makes you stronger. If I'm guaranteed to win it every day, I'm not working as hard.
Katie.
Hi, Katie Fehrenbacher, Fortune. Job creation through the development of factories can be a little bit tricky when it comes to if they are new startups in the clean energy, clean tech space. Do you have any lessons learned from your experiences over the years working with those types of companies?
It's like how to avoid Solyndra? Is that what the question is? Or
Yeah. Hey, listen, I personally have started 30 companies. I've been involved in so many different ones. Some work, some don't. I never.
What's your batting average on those 30?
Those are good.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you about the others I invested in. But, you know, that's life. Some work, some don't. I've tried some very risky businesses. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But you never want to lose that entrepreneurial spirit. The hardest problem for young people today is access to capital. It is very hard for you to find capital today. Back when I started my first business when I was 14 years old, I could get capital. You can't get capital today. And I think that's a real problem we have in this nation today is the entrepreneurial spirit. After some of these new banking laws, I think we may have gone a little too far on them and have really stifled creativity, innovation, and the entrepreneurial spirit by not having capital out there. So
anything you can do in Virginia to help that?
I do. I get some money through our state that we have some entrepreneurial funds. We have our Mach 37 Cyber Accelerator, the CIT up in Northern Virginia. I'm really trying in Northern Virginia to make us the real, you got Silicon Valley, of course, and you've got up in Massachusetts. I'm trying to make outside of Washington and Northern Virginia a real tech center for bio-life sciences. NIH is close to us. So we have, as I say, more data centers. Cybersecurity is a huge advantage for us.
Is there a last question here? I have one, but yes, go ahead.
Governor Brian DeMaine from Fortune. A quick two-part question. I think I know the answer to part two. Who's going to win the Republican nomination? Who's going to win the Democratic nomination, and why?
Who's going to win the election?
You know, the Democrats clear. I don't need to go there, and I don't want to make any news today that I don't need to. But and listen, I ultimately think Hillary wins Iowa. You know, Bernie's got a good run going up in New Hampshire. We'll see what happens. March 1st, Virginia being included, 10 big states. It's going to be a big day. Those southern states, and things could work out. That could be the end on our side. I think Trump stays in for a while. At some point, they narrow it down, though. You know, he's out there with 15 people. He gets 25%. That's going to make him the leader. At some point, people start dropping off, and then people got to get 35 and 40 and 45%.
And who does that?
If you ask me who, and remember, this is about winning the Electoral College, 270 electoral votes. Democrats are always we have a huge lead in the Electoral College because of California and New York and Illinois. We've got other states like Virginia in play. Listen, if they can come up with something different, a Rubio or a Kasich ticket, something that puts an Ohio in play and puts a Florida in play, that I think makes it much more interesting. Yeah,
that's pretty powerful. But somebody in the Republican Party said to me the other day that the Republican primary in particular is industrial politics. It's like you got the money, you got the machine, you're going to get the nomination. That points to Jeb Bush.
If they don't win, I think it'd be honestly my personal one of the easier ones for us to beat. But if they cannot win a Virginia and Ohio, if they lose Virginia, Ohio, it's over. Electoral college, it's over.
Yeah.
So they gotta. We're only playing, Alan. You know this as well as I do. We're only playing in 8 states, maybe. The other, 42 are gone.
Don't matter. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
When are we going to have the McAuliffe for president?
Well, I'm all for
You knew
Hillary.
that question was coming.
I'm all for Hillary.
Look at that. There are people. You got people clapping for you.
Well, listen.
As they say, they're begging you to run. Terry.
Yeah. I adore women. Low energy. I am low energy. I do love watching them, though. You got to admit this is spectacular. Listen, I love doing what I'm doing. Alan, I've had such a varied career. I never know what I'm going to do in a year or two from now. Listen, I want to honestly be the best governor I can possibly be. As you can tell, I love this job. I make decisions every single day. I make them, chips fall where they may. And I don't worry about a decision I've made. We need more people in politics standing up for what you believe in. You're not always going to win. But golly, everyone who knows me in Virginia knows I swing for the fences every single day. I don't always get it, but I'm up there swinging every single day, and that's what they like.
Well, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, everybody. Great. Thank you, buddy. It's great. Thank you. Yeah.